There are nights when you wake from a dream that will not let go of you. The strange room, the chase that had no face, the version of someone you love who was not quite themselves. And you lie there wondering what is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong. The mind does not waste its deepest hours on nonsense. What feels like a random oddity in the dark is closer to a report. A quiet accounting of everything you felt during the day and never stopped to name. The image that unsettled you was not invented to confuse you. It was assembled out of the exact material your waking self set down too quickly to look at. And underneath all of it sits a single question. The one you have probably asked without saying it aloud. How do you read the messages the mind keeps sending you while you sleep? Here is the part that turns the fear around. The dreams that frighten us most are often the ones doing the most careful work. Researchers studying why we dream at all have found the sleeping brain rehearsing threats, sorting fear from memory, practicing for a life it is trying to keep you safe inside, which means the nightmare you wanted to forget may have been the mind protecting you, not punishing you. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. So let the strangeness of your dreams stop feeling like a flaw and start feeling like language. A language your own mind already speaks and is patiently teaching you to hear. Let the day's unfinished feelings loosen now from behind your eyes. The way images soften just before sleep takes them. You do not have to decode anything tonight. You only have to listen as the mind begins, gently, to show you what it has been holding. One question goes with us into the dark. We begin where every dream begins, with the first small signal the sleeping mind sends. You have woken in the dark before, certain that something happened. A face, a fall, a goodbye. Only to find the room exactly as you left it. The heart is still going, but nothing in the room explains it. Sleep researchers describe this as the residue of REM sleep, the stage where the brain generates its most vivid inner experiences. During REM, the visual and emotional centers light up almost as strongly as they do when you are awake, while the part of the brain that tracks logic goes quiet. So the feeling outlasts the story. And beneath everything we follow tonight sits one quiet question. What is the brain actually trying to tell you in those hours when no one is awake to listen? Maybe you have noticed that the dreams you remember are almost never the calm ones. They are the chases, the missed trains, the rooms you cannot leave. What researchers found is that this is not random. Emotionally charged dreams are simply far more likely to survive into waking memory. The brain tags experiences carrying strong feeling as worth keeping, and the tagging continues in sleep. A dream soaked in fear or longing crosses the threshold into morning more easily than a quiet one ever could. So the dreams that haunt you are not the only dreams you had. They are the ones your mind decided you should not forget, which already tells you something about what it was working on. There is a particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with how long you slept. You close your eyes for what feels like a full night, and still wake hollowed out, as if you worked through the dark. Sleep scientists trace part of this to how much of the night the brain spends in active dreaming. Across a normal night, you cycle into REM 4 to 6 times, and those windows lengthen toward morning. The last can run nearly an hour. By dawn, a large share of your dreaming happens in those final stretches, right before you wake. The mind was not resting in the way you imagined. It was busy with something it never asked your permission to begin. You may have caught yourself dismissing a dream by saying it meant nothing. Just noise. just leftover thoughts. For a long time, science agreed with you. But the more carefully researchers looked, the less the noise looked like noise. Dreams turn out to be strangely selective about their material, returning again and again to what is unresolved in waking life, not to what is settled. The mind does not replay the day at random. It reaches for the loose threads. What felt like static may be the only language a part of you has to raise, something you have not let yourself look at directly. Consider the strangest thing about a nightmare: your body is in genuine danger of nothing at all. Yet everything in you responds as if it were. Researchers call the underlying state REM atonia. During dreaming sleep, the brain actively paralyzes nearly every muscle below the neck. You are flooded with fear, sprinting, falling, fighting, while your body lies completely still. The brain runs the full emotional rehearsal and disconnects the part that would let you act on it. It is one of the most precisely engineered paradoxes in human biology: maximum inner intensity, total outer stillness. The terror is real. The threat was never in the room. And that gap is exactly where tonight's question lives. Perhaps you have woken from a dream so detailed it felt more real than the morning you woke into. The textures, the voices, the weight of it, sharper than memory should allow. What we now understand is that during REM, the brain is not retrieving experience so much as building it, frame by frame, from the inside. The same regions that process real sight and sound are generating these scenes without any input from your eyes or ears. There is no camera. There is only the mind, rendering a world in full. So the realness you felt was not a trick. It was your own brain, showing you what it is capable of constructing when nothing outside is asking for its attention. You know the dream where someone you love does something they never would, leaves, lies, turns away, and you wake faintly angry at a person who did nothing. The feeling lingers past breakfast. Researchers studying dream content find that the people closest to us appear in our dreams far more often than strangers, and usually in scenarios that test the bond rather than confirm it. The dreaming brain seems to use familiar faces as material for working through what those relationships ask of us. The person in the dream is rarely the point. They are a stand-in for a feeling you have been carrying about them, or about yourself, that daylight never gave you room to name. There is a moment, just after waking, when a dream is still fully there, and then you reach for it, and it is already thinning, like fog pulling apart in your hands. Within minutes, most of it is simply gone. Scientists link this to the chemistry of REM itself. The brain produces almost none of the substance needed to lay down lasting memories during that stage. The dream was vivid because you were inside it, but it was never being saved. This is not your forgetfulness failing you. It is the architecture of sleep, designed so that the night's inner work can happen without crowding the memory you need for the day. Maybe you have had the same dream return across years. The same house, the same exam, the same water rising. It arrives unbidden, then disappears, then comes back when you least expect it. Researchers who track recurring dreams find they cluster around themes. A person has not fully metabolized unresolved fear, a role that no longer fits, a loss never quite mourned. The dream repeats not to torment you, but because the underlying question stays open. A scene that returns is a kind of message that keeps being resent because it was never marked as received. Tonight is partly about learning what it has been trying to deliver. And here the question begins to turn. If a dream comes back only while something stays unfinished, then perhaps the work was never to interpret the dream, but to notice what in you it keeps pointing toward. You have probably felt a dream change your mood for an entire morning without being able to say why. Nothing happened. Yet a heaviness or a sweetness follows you out of bed and into the day. Studies measuring emotion after waking confirm this is real and measurable. The feeling tone of a dream can shape your baseline mood for hours. During REM, the brain's emotional centers run especially hot, while stress chemistry runs unusually low, creating a kind of safe space to feel intensely. What you carry into the morning is not a memory of the dream. It is the emotional residue of work your mind did while you were too unconscious to interrupt it. Think of how a worry you carried to bed sometimes looks different by morning, smaller, or clearer, or simply less sharp. You did nothing consciously, yet something shifted. Researchers studying sleep and emotion describe REM as a place where the brain replays charged memories while stripping away some of their physical sting. The event stays, the alarm attached to it softens. It is why time and sleep together can dull a grief that no amount of waking effort could touch. The dream you barely remember may have been the quiet machinery doing exactly that, handling a feeling on your behalf. In the only hours you finally stopped handling it yourself, you may have noticed that you dream more, and more intensely, during the hardest stretches of your life. Grief, upheaval, a decision that will not resolve, and suddenly the nights grow crowded and strange. This is not your imagination. Studies show dream intensity and frequency rise when waking life carries more unprocessed emotion. The mind, given more to metabolize, simply runs the night shift harder, far from a sign that something is wrong. A stretch of vivid dreaming often means the deeper system is working overtime to keep up. The strange nights you have lived through were not the system breaking. They were the system doing its most demanding work. There is the dream of being chased, the dream of falling, the dream of teeth crumbling, and somehow they belong to almost everyone you could ask. What researchers find is that certain dream themes recur across cultures and continents with a consistency that random imagery could never produce. This points to something shared in how the human brain dreams, not just what any one person fears. These near-universal dreams seem to draw on old, common machinery, the brain rehearsing threat, loss, exposure. The strangeness you wake from is, in a sense, deeply ordinary. You are running a program that has been running in human minds for a very long time. Picture lying still in the dark while your heart pounds from a danger that was never there. The body reacts to the dream as though it were happening. The racing pulse, the held breath, the readiness to run. Sleep scientists explain that the brain cannot fully tell a vividly simulated threat from a real one. The same alarm circuitry fires either way. This is why a nightmare can leave you genuinely shaken in a quiet, safe room. The fear was not pretend. Your body lived it. And that tells you how seriously the mind takes what it stages at night. Seriously enough to mobilize your whole physiology for something that exists only inside your own skull. Maybe you have woken with the strange certainty that a dream solved something, that you understood a problem, or saw a person clearly, in a way you could not while awake. People have stumbled onto melodies, equations, and decisions in their sleep, and it is not folklore. Researchers find the dreaming brain forms unexpected connections between distant ideas, because the usual filters that keep thinking orderly are relaxed during REM, freed from logic's narrow path. The mind wanders into combinations daylight would never allow. So the insight you woke with was not luck. It was your brain doing a kind of thinking it can only do when you are no longer steering. Loose, associative, and occasionally wiser than you. You have likely had a dream where the rules of the world simply did not apply. You could fly, or breathe underwater, or stand in two places at once. And inside the dream it felt completely natural. Only on waking did the impossibility register. Researchers tie this to which parts of the brain go quiet in REM, the regions responsible for self-monitoring and disbelief dim. So the mind accepts whatever it generates. This is not a flaw. It is what lets the dream do its work without your skepticism shutting it down. For a few hours, you become an audience that questions nothing, and that openness may be exactly what some inner message needs to finally get through. Consider how often a dream hands you a feeling without a clear story, a wash of dread, or tenderness, or shame, attached to images that make no narrative sense. You wake knowing how you felt far more clearly than what occurred. Scientists studying dream construction suggest the emotion often comes first, and the brain assembles a scene to fit it, rather than the other way around. The feeling is the seed, the story is the costume. This reverses how we usually think dreams work. It means the strange plot may matter far less than the emotion underneath it, and that the emotion is the part actually asking to be read. There is the dream you would never admit to anyone. Too strange, too dark, too unlike who you believe yourself to be. You wake half ashamed of a mind that could produce it. What researchers understand is that the dreaming brain is not bound by the moral editing that governs waking thought. It explores material you would never let yourself consider awake. This does not mean the dream reveals a hidden truth about your character. It means the mind is testing, sorting, and discharging in a space with no consequences. The dream you were ashamed of was not a confession. It was your mind using the one room where nothing it imagines can actually happen. You may have noticed that a single worry, pushed away all day, returns the moment you close your eyes, now dressed in symbols, distorted, but unmistakably the same concern. Researchers find that what we suppress in waking life tends to surface in dreams, sometimes more insistently for having been denied. The mind does not simply drop what you refuse to face, it reroutes it into the night. This is part of why ignoring a feeling rarely makes it vanish. It only changes the hour and the form in which it returns. The dream becomes the back door for whatever the front door of consciousness kept locked all day. Think of waking from a nightmare and feeling, oddly, a little steadier afterward, as if some pressure had been released. It seems backward. That fear could leave you calmer. Yet researchers studying nightmares find they may serve a function, letting the brain run worst-case scenarios in a place where nothing is lost. By rehearsing the feared thing in the dark, the mind can practice the emotion and, in some cases, diffuse part of its charge. Not every nightmare heals, but many are less an attack than an attempt. The dream that frightened you may have been the mind's way of facing something on your behalf. So the waking version would have a little less power. Perhaps you have had a dream that seemed to predict a mood you would feel days later, a sense of an ending, or a worry that had not yet taken shape. It can feel almost prophetic. Researchers offer a quieter explanation. The dreaming brain is often working on emotional currents you have not consciously registered yet, surfacing them before your waking mind catches up. The dream was not seeing the future. It was reading the present more honestly than you were. What looked like prediction was really early detection. A part of you noticing the weather change before the storm reached the surface of your attention. You know the dream that leaves you with a question you cannot shake all morning. About a choice. A person. A path you have been avoiding. It does not give answers. It sharpens the asking. Researchers describe a process called dream incubation, where the mind, primed by a concern before sleep, returns to it across the night and works it from new angles. The dream rarely hands you a verdict. Instead, it keeps the question alive and turns it over in ways waking rumination cannot. So the unsettled feeling you wake with is not failure. It may be the sign that something in you is still working, patiently, indirectly, on the very thing you most need to resolve. Consider how a dream can make you feel deeply connected to someone you have lost. A parent, a friend, a former self, so vividly that grief and comfort arrive together. These dreams are common, and researchers studying them find they often help the bereaved process loss, allowing a kind of contact the waking world no longer permits. The brain reconstructs the person from memory with startling fidelity, and for a few minutes you are with them again. This is not denial. It is one of the mind's gentler tools for carrying what cannot be changed. The dream gives you, briefly, what daylight cannot, and asks only that you let yourself receive it. What the dream did just then, rebuilding a closeness the day could no longer offer, is not something far away in a laboratory. It is the same softening happening behind your own eyes right now, as the edges of your thoughts stop lining up so neatly. You don't have to arrange them. The question we opened is quietly shifting. Maybe the messages were never written in words at all. Maybe they live in connections you only meet when you stop trying to make sense. Let the next stretch carry that further. You may have woken from a dream and felt, for a few seconds, like a slightly different person. Softer, braver, more honest than your waking self tends to allow. Researchers note that in dreams we often behave in ways our daytime identity holds back, trying on responses we would not risk awake. The dreaming mind seems to use this freedom to rehearse who we might be, not just replay who we are. That unfamiliar version of yourself was not a stranger. It was a possibility your own brain was quietly exploring, a self practiced in the dark, in case the day ever asks for it. Notice how, across all of this, the dream keeps returning to the same kind of material, not the trivial, but the unfinished, the fear not faced, the feeling not named, the loss not mourned. What the dreaming brain reaches for is rarely the settled part of your life. It is the open one. This is the thread running beneath every strange night the mind, given hours without your supervision, goes straight to what you left undone in the light. The question of how to read these messages is starting to look less like decoding symbols. It looks more like learning where your own attention keeps being drawn, and what, in the next stretch, it has been trying to point you toward all along. There is a quietness settling in now, the kind that arrives once the mind has been gently busy for a while. You don't have to hold on to any of these dreams. Take one slow breath and notice the space that opens between thoughts. We'll keep going from here, softly. You may have noticed that the dreams which stay with you are almost never the calm ones. It is the charged ones, soaked in feeling, that you carry into morning. Sleep researchers found a reason for this. The dreaming brain runs hottest in the regions that handle emotion, and quietest in the regions that handle logic. During REM sleep, the limbic system, the deep circuitry of feeling, lights up well beyond its waking levels, while the prefrontal cortex, the part that reasons and restrains, goes quiet. So a dream is not a thought you are having. It is a feeling you are moving through, narrated by a mind that has set its rules aside for the night. There is a part of you that registers danger before you can name it. The flinch, the dread, the sense that something is wrong. That same part does not sleep when you do. The amygdala, the brain's alarm and emotion center, stays remarkably active through REM, sometimes more active than in waking hours. Scientists studying dream imaging see it firing as the strange scenes unfold, tagging the dream with fear, urgency, or unease. This is why so many dreams carry an emotional weather you cannot quite explain. The mind is not inventing the feeling. It is replaying one you already had, and finally giving it somewhere to go. Think of a worry you set aside during the day because there was no time for it. It did not disappear. Neuroscientists now describe REM sleep as a kind of overnight therapy, a stretch of hours where the brain revisits emotional experiences in a softer chemical climate. During REM, levels of noradrenaline, the stress molecule that sharpens fear, drop close to their lowest of the entire day. The brain reactivates the emotional memory without the original stress chemistry attached. It can look at what frightened you without being frightened by it again. The dream is the mind handling something difficult while you are safely out of the way. Consider how a hard day can feel lighter after you sleep on it. The edges worn down, the sting reduced. That phrase, sleep on it, turns out to be more literal than we knew. In controlled studies, people shown emotionally upsetting images reacted far less intensely to the same images after a night of REM-rich sleep, while those kept awake stayed raw. The brain does not erase the memory of what happened. It strips away some of the bodily charge that came with it, separating the fact from the fear. What remains in the morning is the lesson without the wound, the knowledge without the alarm. Have you ever woken from a nightmare with your heart pounding, certain something terrible was about to happen? That racing, that readiness. It is not malfunction, it is rehearsal. One leading theory holds that the frightening dream is the brain practicing for threat, running danger simulations in a body that cannot actually be harmed. Across the night, the sleeping mind stages versions of the things that scare us, letting fear circuits fire and resolve in perfect safety. The nightmare you wanted to escape may have been a kind of training, the oldest part of you keeping its survival skills sharp, so that the real threat, if it ever comes, meets a mind that has already practiced staying alive. Notice how the people and places in your dreams are rarely strangers. They are pulled from your own life, rearranged. There is a reason your dreams look like your days. Researchers studying dream content across thousands of reports describe what they call continuity, the concerns, relationships, and worries that occupy your waking hours are the same ones that surface at night. If you are anxious about someone, they appear. If a decision is unresolved, it plays out in disguise. The dream borrows the cast and the rooms of your life because it is working on your life. It is not a message from elsewhere. It is your own mind turning over what you carried in. You have probably had the experience of learning something hard, sleeping, and waking up better at it, as if practice happened in the dark. It did. During sleep, the brain replays the day's experiences, firing the same neural patterns it used while learning, only faster and in compressed bursts. Scientists watching this replay see memories being sorted, strengthened, and filed. Dreams appear to ride along with this process, weaving fragments of the day into stories. So the odd cameo of something that happened to you yesterday is not random. It is a memory being handled, lifted, examined, and set into the larger shape of what you know. Think about how rarely a dream is purely about facts, and how often it is about how something felt. The sleeping brain seems to sort memory along emotional lines. Studies suggest that REM sleep preferentially consolidates experiences that carried strong feeling, keeping what mattered and letting the neutral details fade. This is why you forget the ordinary commute, but dream about the conversation that stung. The mind is triaging, deciding which moments earned a permanent place by the weight of emotion attached to them. Your dreams lean toward the charged material because feeling is how the brain marks what is worth keeping. The dream is the sorting made visible. What is a strangeness to dream logic? The way a house becomes, a school becomes the sea, and none of it feels wrong while you are inside it. That fluid, associative quality has a source. With the brain's logical century resting, the mind connects ideas more loosely, linking memories that waking thought would keep apart. Researchers see this as part of how dreaming works through problems, by bridging distant pieces of experience to find a pattern the rational mind missed. The bizarre stitching of a dream is not error. It is the brain exploring unexpected connections, testing how things might relate, searching your own stored life for an answer you have not yet reached. Recall a feeling you could not put into words during the day. Too tangled, too quick, gone before you could hold it. The mind does not let those vanish, without language to pin them down. Unnamed emotions settle into the body and the deeper memory systems. Waiting. Sleep is where they are taken up again. The dreaming brain, freed from words, works in images instead, building a scene that carries the shape of a feeling you never managed to describe. This is why a dream can move you so deeply and resist all explanation. It is speaking the language emotion used before you had words for any of it. You may have noticed that the worst nightmares often come during the hardest stretches of life. After loss, during stress, when everything feels like too much. This is not coincidence. And it is not the mind turning against you. When daytime emotion runs high and goes unprocessed, the night takes on more of the load. Studies of people under severe stress find their dreams grow more intense and more frightening. Not because something is broken, but because the brain's overnight processing system is working overtime on a backlog. The nightmare is a sign of effort, not failure. It means the mind is still trying to metabolize what the day could not. Consider the dreams that repeat. The same chase, the same falling, the same locked door, returning for years. A recurring dream is often a signal that something has not yet been resolved. Researchers link repeating dreams to ongoing stress or unfinished emotional business. Themes the mind keeps reopening because the work is not done. The repetition is not a curse looping on you. It is persistence. The same way you return to a problem you have not solved. When the underlying feeling finally shifts, studies find the recurring dream tends to change or fade. The dream was waiting, all along, for you to be ready. Think of how a single image from a dream can stay vivid for years. A color, a face, a door, while entire weeks of waking life dissolve into nothing. The brain seems to bind emotion and imagery into something unusually durable. When a feeling is strong and the dreaming mind gives it a picture, the two fuse into a memory that resists forgetting. This is why dream symbols feel personal and weighted, even when you cannot say what they mean. They are not universal codes to be looked up. They are private translations, your own mind's chosen image for a feeling only you carried, made to last because it mattered. You might assume the meaning of a dream lives in some fixed dictionary, the same for everyone. Water means this. Falling means that. Careful research says otherwise. The science of dreaming finds no universal symbol key. What a dream image means depends entirely on the dreamer, the life, the feeling underneath. A dog can be comfort to one person and fear to another, because the dream is built from your associations, not a shared code. This is the gentler truth about reading your dreams. There is no secret manual to decode. There is only your own life, asking to be felt, and the willingness to ask what the feeling, not the image, was about. And so the question we carried into the dark has quietly turned. We began by asking how to read the messages the mind sends through dreams, as if there were a cipher to crack. But the night keeps showing something stranger. The dream is not a coded message hiding its meaning. It is the mind itself, working in images on the feelings the day was too full to name. The reading may have less to do with decoding the symbol than with feeling what the symbol was made of. Yet that only opens a deeper question, one the rest of the night will follow. If the feeling is the message, why this feeling, dressed this way? On this night, something in you has settled since we began. The breathing's slower now, the questions less sharp. Just now the night turned the whole idea around. The symbol was never the message, only the feeling it was made of. Let that settle for a moment. The way a held breath finally lets itself out. There is nothing left here to solve, only a feeling left to be felt. From this turning, the second half goes deeper still, toward the work the dreaming mind has been quietly doing all this time. We began by asking how to read the hidden messages the brain sends through dreams. And somewhere across these hours, the question has quietly turned. It looks less like decoding a warning sent from outside, and more like recognizing a feeling you already held but never named in daylight. The strange dream was not a stranger. It was the part of you that feels everything, finally finding a room dark enough to speak. But recognizing the feeling is not yet the same as understanding why the mind tends it the way it does. And that quieter question is the one the second half of tonight will slowly turn toward. What just turned? The sense that the dream which frightened you was never a message from somewhere else, but a feeling of your own, looking for a way to be heard, is not only an idea about sleep. You may be carrying one of those dreams right now. The image of it, faded, but the feeling underneath it's still here, somewhere behind the breastbone, in the slow rise and fall of your breath. You don't have to translate it tonight. You don't have to solve what it meant. The rest of these hours follow that feeling inward, not to explain it away, but to sit beside it until it no longer needs to wake you to be known. Let your jaw soften. Let the dream, whatever it was, stay where it is. And from here, we go a little deeper. Why are the dreams you remember most so rarely the pleasant ones? The brain appears to weight emotionally charged material more heavily during sleep. And researchers studying memory consolidation find that the amygdala stays unusually active through REM. This is not your mind dwelling on the negative for its own sake. It is a triage system, sorting which feelings still carry an unfinished charge and which have been resolved enough to file away. The dream that wakes you is often the one holding an emotion the day never gave you room to feel. What returns at night was simply waiting for a quieter place to be heard. There is a strange honesty to dreams that waking life rarely allows. Without the social filters of the prefrontal cortex running at full strength, the sleeping brain composes scenes from raw association rather than careful logic. Studies of dream content show that the emotions are almost always accurate, even when the imagery is impossible. You may dream of a place you have never been, attached to a feeling you know exactly. The setting is invented, but the ache, the relief, the longing are reports from somewhere real inside you. The dream lies about the facts, so it can tell the truth about the feeling. You might recall a dream that felt more vivid, more saturated, than anything from your waking hours. During REM sleep, the visual and emotional centers of the brain fire with intensity, while the regions that test reality against logic go quiet. Neuroscientists describe this as a shift in the brain's internal balance, where feeling leads and reason follows. This is why a dream can move you more deeply than the day that inspired it. The vividness is not exaggeration. It is what an emotion looks like when nothing is there to talk it down, to explain it away, to make it smaller than it actually is. Perhaps you have woken from a nightmare with your heart racing, certain that something had gone wrong. The body responds to a frightening dream almost exactly as it would to a real threat, releasing the same stress signals, quickening the same pulse. Sleep researchers have come to see many nightmares not as malfunctions but as rehearsals. The mind practicing a fear in a place where nothing can truly harm you. The dread you felt was your nervous system running a drill. What frightened you in the dark was, in its own way, your brain trying to prepare you, gently, for something it sensed you were not yet ready to face. Not all of the night's work happens inside a dream. Between the vivid REM stretches, the quieter phases of sleep run their own sorting, deciding which of the day's memories to strengthen and which to let dissolve. Brief electrical bursts called sleep spindles ripple through the brain during this deeper rest, helping move fresh experience into longer-term storage. Your dreams ride on top of this hidden triage, dressing in images the choices the brain is already making underneath. So the scene you wake with is only the surface. Below it, a slower and more silent labor has been deciding what of today gets to stay with you. Somewhere in your past, there may be a dream you have never forgotten, one that arrived during a hard season and stayed. Memory researchers find that dreams formed during emotional upheaval are encoded more durably, woven tightly into the brain's record of who we are. These are the dreams that feel like messages. And in a sense, they are. They mark the nights when the mind was working hardest to metabolize something too large for daylight. The dream lingered because the feeling mattered. Your brain decided this one was worth keeping. A quiet bookmark placed on the page where you were quietly changing. You might have caught yourself dreaming about a problem and waking with a solution half formed. The sleeping brain is unusually good at loosening fixed ways of thinking, connecting ideas that the waking mind keeps in separate rooms. Studies of creative insight show that people who sleep on a difficult question solve it more often than those who push through awake. During REM, associations spread freely, and a feeling you could not name becomes a story you can almost follow. The answer was not delivered from outside. It was assembled overnight from pieces you already held but had never been quiet enough to set beside one another. Perhaps a dream has shown you someone you lost, and you woke holding the grief again as if it were new. Dreams of the departed are among the most common across every culture studied, and they tend to arrive when mourning is still unfinished. Researchers see in them the mind's way of continuing a relationship the heart is not ready to release. The pain on waking is not a wound reopening. It is love still moving through the only channel left to it. Your brain returns you to them, not to hurt you, but because some feelings need to be felt many times before they can finally rest. You may have woken unsure whether a dream had been good or bad, only that it left a residue you carried into the morning. This lingering tone is called dream effect, and it often outlasts every image the dream contained. Sleep scientists find that the emotional coloring of a dream can shape mood for hours. A quiet weather system left behind by the night. The story dissolves, but the feeling stays. Because the feeling was always the point. Your mind was never trying to tell you a tale. It was trying to hand you a mood it had been holding for you until morning came. There may be a fear you have never spoken aloud, and yet your dreams seem to know it intimately. The sleeping brain has access to material the waking self keeps carefully out of view. The things we decide, by day, not to look at directly. Researchers studying emotional suppression find that what we push down does not disappear, it surfaces at night, costumed and rearranged, but unmistakably itself. The dream is not exposing a secret to punish you. It is offering you a private rehearsal of something you have been too careful to approach. In sleep, the door you keep closed is left gently ajar, and only you are watching. Picture the brain at the close of a long, draining day, sifting through everything you felt and never finished feeling. It processes the day's emotional load during sleep, and a heavier day simply leaves more to sort. Studies measuring stress find that nights following difficult days show more intense REM activity, as though the mind works over time to clear what accumulated. The restless dream is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a system doing its job, clearing the channels so you can wake a little lighter. What felt like a chaotic night was your brain tending to everything you carried but could not put down. Perhaps you have dreamed in fragments, scenes that refused to connect, and assumed your mind was simply being random. But researchers find that even disjointed dreams follow an emotional logic, each fragment circling a single underlying feeling from a different angle. The brain is not telling a broken story. It is examining one feeling from every side. The way you might turn an object in your hands to understand its shape. What seemed like nonsense was a kind of thoroughness. Your mind was being patient with something complicated, refusing to settle for a single view of a feeling that deserved to be seen completely. You may carry the sense that some part of you is wiser at night than you are by day. There is reason to take that feeling seriously. During sleep, the brain integrates emotion and memory without the interruptions of waking demand, reaching conclusions the conscious mind has no time to form. Researchers describe REM as a state of offline emotional processing, where understanding deepens beneath awareness. This is why a feeling can seem clearer in the morning than it did the night before. The work was done while you rested. Some part of you stayed up, gently, sorting what mattered, and left the answer waiting where you would find it. Perhaps you have woken from a dream that felt like a warning and wondered whether to trust it. Dreams cannot foretell the future, but they can surface patterns the waking mind has not yet articulated. Researchers find that the brain detects subtle signals long before we consciously register them, and sometimes those quiet observations arrive first as dreams. The unease you woke with was not prophecy. It was your own perception, reaching you through the one door that stays open while you sleep. The dream did not know something you did not. It knew something you had not yet let yourself admit you already understood. Across all of this, a shape has been forming, quietly, beneath every dream we have considered. The question we began with, how to read the hidden messages the brain sends through the dark, has slowly turned into something gentler. The messages were never coded to be hard. They were emotions the day moved too quickly to hold, returning at night in the only language that remains when words are set down. To read a dream is not to decode a puzzle. It is to recognize a feeling you already carry, offered back to you when you are finally still enough to receive it. The dream's nearest morning are often the most vivid of the entire night, and there is a structural reason why. The final stretch of sleep holds the longest REM periods, and the brain saves much of its emotional processing for then. This is why the dream's nearest morning feel the most charged, the most lifelike, the most likely to follow you into the day. The mind seems to do its deepest sorting last, as if working toward a resolution it can hand you as you rise. The dream that greeted your waking was not an accident of timing. It was the culmination of a night spent quietly tending to you. Perhaps you have dreamed of falling, or being unprepared, or searching for something you cannot find. These shared dreams appear across cultures and centuries, and researchers see in them the common emotional currents of being human. The universal experiences of insecurity, exposure, and longing. You are not having a strange private vision. You are touching a feeling that nearly every person who has ever slept has touched. The dream connected you, without your knowing, to a vast and quiet company. What felt most isolating in the dark turned out to be one of the most shared experiences there is. A feeling the whole human family carries home each night. You might have found that talking about a dream, or even just naming it, loosens its grip on you. There is mechanism beneath this relief. Putting a feeling into language engages the prefrontal cortex, the same region that quiets during the dream itself. And this engagement helps the emotions settle. Researchers studying emotional regulation find that naming a feeling reliably reduces its intensity. The dream raised something wordless. Speaking, it gives that something a place to rest. This is why a dream often loosens once shared. You finished. In daylight. The gentle work your sleeping mind had only begun the night before. Perhaps you have sensed that your dreams change as your life changes. That new seasons bring new dreams. The brain dreams from current emotional material, drawing on whatever you are presently working to understand. Researchers tracking dream content across major life transitions find the themes shift to match. Mirroring the feelings of each new chapter, your dreams are not a fixed script replaying old fears. They are a living record, updated nightly. of where your heart is now. The dream you have tonight belongs to the person you are becoming, not the one you were, and it knows the difference, even when you do not. Think of the rare morning when you wake not just rested but somehow emotionally restored. Dreaming appears to play a direct role in this. During REM, the brain replays emotional experiences with the stress chemistry turned down, allowing the memory to remain while its sharpest sting softens. Researchers describe this as the mind treating its own wounds while you sleep. A slow restoration you never have to direct. The calm you sometimes wake with was earned in the dark. Your dreams were not idle entertainment. They were a quiet, patient form of care. The part of you that knows how to heal working on your behalf. Perhaps you have wished you could remember your dreams more often, sensing there was something there worth keeping. Most dreams fade within minutes of waking, not because they were unimportant, but because the brain chemistry that fixes memory is low during REM. The forgetting is by design. Researchers suggest the mind processes the feeling and then releases the story, keeping the lesson while letting the imagery go. So even the dreams you cannot recall did their work. The feeling was tended. The charge was softened. And what you needed was quietly kept, even as the picture dissolved before you could hold it. Could your dreams be quietly trying to show you who you really are, in a sense? They are. The sleeping brain returns most insistently to what matters most to us: the relationships, fears, and hopes that define a life. Researchers find that dream content reliably reflects our deepest concerns, the things we would name if asked what truly moves us. Your dreams are a kind of portrait, drawn nightly, of what you care about beneath all your distractions. They show you, without flattery or fear, the shape of your own attention, the quiet center of everything you have not stopped feeling. Perhaps you have begun to feel, over the course of this night, that your dreams were never something happening to you, but something being done for you. The brain does not dream at random. It dreams toward integration, toward the moment when a scattered feeling becomes a settled one. Every strange image, every unsettling scene, was part of a process tending quietly toward your wholeness. Researchers see in dreaming an essential act of emotional housekeeping, the mind caring for itself in the only hours it is fully free to do so. What visited you in the dark was never an intruder. It was you, looking after you. You may notice now that the fear you once felt after a strange dream has begun to loosen its hold. Understanding changes how a feeling lands. When you know that a nightmare is a rehearsal, that turbulence is clearing, that even grief in a dream is love still moving. The dark stops feeling like a place of threat. Researchers find that simply understanding the function of dreams reduces the distress they cause. The strange dream was never a verdict against you. It was a message in a language you are only now learning to read. And the message, underneath everything, was always one of care. And so the answer has fully formed. Dreams are the mind's way of processing the emotions the day never gave us room to name. They are not omens, not malfunctions, not riddles set against us. They are the nightly work of a brain that refuses to let any feeling go unattended, sorting, softening, and integrating what we carried but could not hold in the light. To read a dream is simply to recognize the emotion it was tending on our behalf. The strange messages of the dark were never warnings. They were the quiet, faithful labor of a mind determined to keep us whole, one feeling at a time. The mind has a way of mending that asks nothing of you. The way a tide returns to shore without ever being called. Right now, in the deepening quiet, that same gentle sorting is moving through you, softening what the day left sharp, settling what was unsettled, with no instruction needed from the part of you that is finally letting go. You do not have to understand it. You do not have to help. What has been forming all night is close now. A single quiet truth about the feelings you have carried and the mind that has been tending them. The rest of the way leads softly toward it. By now, you may have noticed something about your worst dreams. They rarely arrive on calm nights. They come after the days you held the most in. Sleep researchers tracking emotional load have found that dream intensity rises in step with unprocessed feeling, not with how strange the day looked from outside. The mind does not dramatize for its own sake. It turns up the vividness exactly where you turned down your attention. What woke you was the volume of something you had quietly muted. There is a tenderness in how the dreaming brain chooses its images. It does not reach for the feeling directly. It reaches instead for a picture that carries the feeling at a safe distance. A flooding house instead of a grief. A locked door instead of a fear you could not say. Studies of dream symbolism suggest this is protection, not riddle. The mind wraps the rawest material in metaphor so you can meet it without being overwhelmed. Even your nightmares are trying to be gentle with you. You have probably had the dream where you are searching for something and never find it. A room, a person, a way out. Researchers see in these searching dreams the signature of a feeling left open during the day. It is a question your waking mind set down before it was answered. The dream does not invent the search. It continues one you had already begun. And the not finding is not failure. It is the mind keeping the door open until you are ready to walk through it. Consider how often the people in your dreams are not quite who they are. A friend with a stranger's face. A parent younger than you have ever known them. This blending is the brain doing emotional bookkeeping, folding many feelings about many people into single figures it can examine at once. What looks like confusion is compression. The dream is not confusing the people you love. It is gathering everything you feel about them into one place, so the heart can finally hold it all together. Think of the dream that left you with a feeling but no story. You woke unable to say what happened, only how it weighed. This is the deepest layer of the work. Long after the images dissolve, the emotion they carried has already been filed, softened, set in its place. Researchers find that the mood a dream leaves often outlasts every detail of it. The picture was only the vehicle. What stayed was the quiet rearranging of how you feel. You may carry a worry that your darkest dreams say something dark about you. They do not. The sleeping mind rehearses fear precisely because it is committed to keeping you safe. Threat simulation research shows the brain practicing danger in the dark so the waking self meets it steadier. The monster in the dream is not a confession. It is a drill. Your own mind running the difficult scene in private, so that you do not have to face it unprepared. There is a reason the same dream returns. A recurring image is not the mind being stuck. It is the mind being patient, returning to a feeling that has not yet found its rest. Researchers studying repeated dreams see them fade once the underlying emotion is finally met in waking life. The dream stops knocking when you stop needing the message. Until then, its return is not a haunting. It is a kindness, asking only that you listen. You know the dreams that feel more real than the day that follows them. Those tend to come from the deepest emotional currents, the ones your waking life rarely lets surface. Vividness. In dream science, tracks significance. The brighter the dream, the closer it sits to something that matters to you. So the dream you cannot shake is not random brightness. It is the mind lighting up the very thing you have been carrying in the dark, asking gently for your attention. Have you noticed that you almost never dream of the day exactly as it happened? The mind takes a fragment, a face, a phrase, a color, and builds something new around it. This is not distortion. It is integration, the brain weaving the day's small pieces into the larger fabric of who you already are. Nothing real is lost. It is only being placed where it belongs, stitched into the long, quiet story your mind has been telling about your life. Sometimes you wake from a dream feeling lighter than when you fell asleep, without knowing why. That lightness is real. The emotional sorting of the night does not only file fear, it also releases it, loosening the grip of feelings that had nowhere to go while you were awake. Researchers find that REM-rich sleep can ease the emotional charge of a memory, drawing the sting gently from the day. You wake lighter because, somewhere in the dark, something heavy was quietly set down. You may have dreamed of someone you have lost, and woken aching, and yet been grateful. The grieving mind returns to those we miss, not to wound us, but to keep practicing the love after the loss. These dreams are part of how the heart learns to hold absence without breaking. The visit feels real because, in the only place it still can, it is. The dream is the mind insisting that what mattered to you still does. Notice how rarely your dreams judge you. They show you, but they do not scold. The dreaming brain operates with the inner critic largely quieted, the regions of harsh self-evaluation turned down for the night. This is why dreams can reveal so much without cruelty. For a few hours, you meet yourself without the verdict you carry by day. The dream holds up the truth of what you feel and simply lets it be true. No judgment attached. Think of how a feeling you could not name all day finally arrives, fully formed, inside a dream. That naming is the heart of the work. The mind takes the wordless weight you carried and gives it a shape you can finally recognize. What you could not say to yourself awake, the dream says for you, in pictures. And once a feeling has a form, it can begin to move. The unnameable becomes nameable. And what is named can, at last, be released. You have likely woken from a dream with a sense of having understood something, even if it slipped away by morning. That sense was not an illusion. The work was done whether or not you remember it. Memory of the dream was never the point. The sorting, the softening, the filing of feeling all happen below the reach of recall. You do not need to hold the dream to receive its gift. The mind already gave it to you while you slept. And here, after everything the night has shown, the question we carried in begins to answer itself. You do not read the mind's messages the way you read a page, searching for hidden meaning behind the images. You read them the way you read weather, by feeling. The dream was never a code to crack. It was your own mind, taking the feelings you never paused to name, and turning them, faithfully, into something you could finally feel. Consider how the dreams of your hardest seasons change as the season passes. They soften, their images grow less sharp, their fear less near. Researchers following dreams through grief and recovery watch them track healing almost exactly, the nightmare easing as the wound does. Your dreams are a record of your mending. They are not predicting your future. They are showing you, night by night, how far the quiet repair inside you has already come. You may have wished you could control your dreams, steer them somewhere kinder, but the gift of the dream is partly that you cannot. Left to itself, the mind goes exactly where the feeling needs it to go, to the room you would have avoided, to the face you would have looked away from. The lack of control is not a loss. It is trust. Your own mind, knowing better than your waking self what most needs to be felt tonight. There is a reason dreams fade so quickly upon waking. The forgetting is not a flaw in the design. It is part of it. The feeling has already been carried where it needed to go. Holding the images too tightly would only call you back to what the night already resolved. The dream is meant to dissolve. The way scaffolding comes down once the building beneath it can stand on its own. What it changed in you remains. What it used to change you is allowed to fall quietly away. Think of the calm that sometimes settles in the morning after a difficult dream. That calm is the proof. Something was felt, in full, while you slept. And feeling a thing fully is how it finally loosens. The peace you wake into was earned in the dark by a self you never saw working. You do not have to understand what the dream did. You only have to notice that. Somehow, you woke a little freer than you fell asleep. You have a whole life of feeling the day never has room for. The dream is where that room exists. Every gentleness you swallowed, every fear you postponed, every love too large to hold while busy. The night gathers them up. It gives each one its hour. This is the mind's quiet promise. Nothing you feel is ever truly lost in the rush of the day. It waits for the dark. And the dark always comes. And there it is finally met. So when you wake from something strange, you can let the fear go now. The strangeness was never a warning. It was the language of a mind doing its most loving work in the only hours it has alone with you. The chase, the locked door, the face that was not quite right. Each was a feeling, dressed in the only clothes the night had. Each was walking toward the light, so that you could finally see it. You are not being haunted by your dreams. You are being tended by them. Every night your mind sits with the parts of you the day moved too fast to hold, and it stays with them until they soften. There is nothing to fix in this. There is only something to trust. And once the fear loosens, something quietly curious begins to stir. What else is the sleeping mind deciding while it works? In those hours you never see. The messages were never hidden from you. They were only spoken in a language older than words. The language of feeling, which you have understood since before you could speak. You do not have to learn to read your dreams. You already know how. You feel them. And feeling them, even without a single word of explanation, is all the reading they ever asked of you. So tonight, when sleep takes you, let the dreams come however they come. You do not have to brace for them. You do not have to solve them. Whatever images rise in the dark are only your own mind, turning toward the feelings you carried. It turns with a patience you have not always given yourself. Let it work. Let it hold what you could not. You are safe in your own keeping. Your dreams were never riddles to be solved. They were feelings you never had the time to feel. A mind that has been gently caring for you all along gave them, at last, a shape. You do not have to understand them to be healed by them. You only have to let them come. Tonight, you can. There is nothing in the dark that was not, in the end, working to keep you whole. For a little while tonight, you got to set down the question you have carried into so many mornings. What is wrong with me? That my dreams come the way they do. Nothing is wrong. There never was. What you have, instead, is a mind that refuses to let any feeling go unheld, that waits for the quiet of sleep to do the tender work the day left undone. The strange dream, the one that woke you, was only that care made visible. So let the worry rest. The part of you that dreams has been quietly looking after you this whole time, naming in the dark everything you were too busy to name in the light, and asking nothing of you in return but the willingness to sleep. There is more the night does in those quiet hours than sort the day's feelings. While the mind is dreaming, something deeper is being decided, what it chooses to keep of you, and what it lets gently fall away. The next time you drift into psychology for sleep, the question waiting there is the one beneath this one. How does the sleeping mind decide which of your memories to carry forward and which to release? That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. Picture the mind as still water at the end of a long day. The surface finally going quiet, every image that crossed it settling slowly toward the bottom. Let that same settling move through you now. Let your breath lengthen and go soft, each one a little slower than the last. There is nothing here to decode, nothing to hold. The feelings you carried in have already begun to find their places. The way silt drifts down through still water and comes to rest. You were never meant to do this work awake. It was always going to happen here, in the dark, on its own. If sleep comes, let it. Let the images rise and dissolve as they will. They know where they are going. And if you are still here, eyes closed, mind beginning to loosen, you do not have to wait for anything or watch for anything. The dreams will tend to you, whether you remember them or not. So let go now. Let the day, with all its unnamed feeling, soften and sink. You are held by a mind that has never once stopped caring for you. There is nothing in the dark tonight that is not on your side. Sleep well. Good night.